Thank you for coming here today. I know you guys have had a long week, a lot of, obviously great information that you've, collected through this week, and hopefully, met some new people, etc. My name's Jerry Lateo. I'm from CapGemini. I head up our managed services platforms, bringing in kind of the latest technologies as well as extending new services to our clients in the apps management area. So today's presentation is not a whole bunch of slides. I want to make it somewhat interactive with you guys. We've been established a partnership with AppDynamics here this year. We've got a number of clients, actually some of the folks in the audience here from Disney, John, that actually would like to talk to you a little bit. But we'll talk a little bit about how the whole AppDynamics piece fits into our overall vision of kind of our Autonomics platform. So I'm going to really hit a few key topics. One is the kind of moving from traditional labor to build and manage systems into a digital concept. The next area is why is that happening, right? And really it's about speed and quality and kind of keeping up with the digital enterprise. And then we'll go into a little bit about the cognitive space, and finally kind of our final vision around really what this means in terms of our workplace and moving to truly kind of a digital labor-based organization. So I'm going to really talk about this is our managed services platform, and if you, kind of the bottom piece is just traditional things we do to manage applications on behalf of our clients. So things like transitions, dashboards and analytics on how their operations are running. We have multi-client factories for SAP, Oracle, CSD types of custom technologies. We do most of our work based on lean kind of foundations, et cetera, with a focus on continuous improvement. But if you look at where we're going and what my team's been working on, it's really how do we, again, with the changes that are happening in our kind of environments with social, digital, cloud, et cetera, keep up with the business, and what kinds of services do we as a service provider need to provide or put onto our service delivery capability. So in a lot of cases, again, even in your own operations, if they're internal, you have service levels, okay, to be able to respond to incidents, fix incidents, things like that. What we're moving to is moving to business service levels, business KPIs. So instead of worrying about the system's up, down, we've resolved this ticket, it's really, have we closed the books? Are we, putting invoices out on time? Things like that. So it's no longer just about the system or underlying infrastructure. It's really about that business service and keeping those levels up. And I think we'll all start to see a lot more focus on that. And it's really about being relevant, whether it's, us as a service provider or you as an internal service provider, to your business customers and driving and aligning to their business outcomes. What's important to them? The whole DevOps piece, we'll go a little bit into that, around that. But really what I'm going to focus on today is kind of this whole cognitive computing, autonomics wave that's coming to us. I think all of you have probably heard in the news, around self-driving cars. I think Tesla was here yesterday, right? They're working on that. Google's driving cars down Highway 1, autonomously. So, we as IT professionals should be able to, start to take some of those ideas, technologies, et cetera, and manage systems more autonomously with less labor, less effort than we do today. So there's a lot of quotes on here, but I think, if you look at, kind of a couple of them that are important, a lot more of the work we do today, the traditional services-based work we do today, is going to become digitized. Okay, it's going to be delivered through some type of software platform. You know, a great example is if you look at, I had breakfast with a gentleman from IBM this morning here at the conference, you know, with Watson, right? That's a great example where, you know, 5 years from now, reading an X-ray in a local doctor's office is probably going to become less and less prevalent, right? Machines are going to read those X-rays and not only base it off of a knowledge of one doctor, but thousands of X-rays to determine what the problem is and what the best possible way to remediate that problem is. So again, think of different aspects of the value chain moving from human to digital labor. I'll give you another very simple example, and this is the way we really need to think about it as an industry. If you look at McDonald's, even within their stores, they've started to automate certain processes. Now, it's not taking out full labor out of the equation, but just the filling of a large soda at McDonald's and Burger King, et cetera, is no longer takes a person to stand there and wait for that whole thing. You put it in and you go, right? Or the cup drops down automatically. They'll start to automate more and more of their value chain. And that's how, at CapGemini, we're really looking at it is, how do we start to automate pieces of the work that are traditionally done by our engineers, and not just for the sake of removing costs, but really driving speed and quality. Okay. Okay, this is an interesting slide. And in our business as a service provider for probably the last 15 years, our major focus has been to really drive cost out of the services we deliver to our clients by leveraging global labor. So basically taking work that we've traditionally done, you know, on-site and moving into global delivery centers. So we've really had a cost play into how we deliver services. And I'm sure, you know, in all of your IT organizations, cost is always at the forefront of what we do. And for better or worse, we've thrown labor at most of the work we do versus really thinking about intelligently, is there a way to automate that work, deliver it more at a higher quality, higher speed? We've used traditional technical monitoring, so servers are up, down, networks up, down, scripting, things like that. Not really anything too intelligent, too orchestrated. The challenge, though, is and kind of what we see as the tipping point is really this digital world that we're all in right now, and it's just not doing nothing more than accelerating. So the you know, digital enterprise, big data, cloud are really driving a need for considerable speed of execution. Okay, and we cannot, CapGemini can't keep up with that business by using traditional large global labor delivery and what I would call kind of antiquated, lower level technical types of capabilities. We have to do something different, or we as a service provider will be irrelevant to our clients because we won't be able to keep up with the business. Okay, and if we can't keep up with the business, there's no reason to have us. And it's really a question of, you know, what are the kind of the next stages that we have to do? And my team is heavily focused with our partners from AppDynamics and others to take this to the next level. And we really see two discrete jumps in automation. Okay, the first is around what we're calling Autonomics, and that's if you go back and if you go onto Wikipedia and you search on Autonomics and IBM. IBM kind of coined this, you know, autonomic systems management back in the 70s and 80s. And they really did that. It made a lot of sense because of the big mainframes, right? Big data centers, big mainframes sitting in those data centers. hundreds, if not thousands of people keeping those systems up and running on a daily basis. And what IBM's vision was really around self-healing, self-monitoring, self-configuring, self-optimizing types of systems. And again, it makes perfect sense. How do you reduce the number of people and labor and effort associated with maintaining these massive platforms? Now, we have that same objective today. The only challenge is it's even more challenging probably than when IBM was doing it. Now we not only have to maintain a centralized system, but potentially many other systems in that digital network, that digital enterprise. So our first kind of step in this journey is really a non-intelligent step. So you get a bit of cognitive. If you again look at the AppDynamics platform around all the data and analytics it can provide back in the enterprise, back into the DevOps cycle, that makes a lot of sense. So you'll see DevOps, process orchestration, more intelligent, APM type of capabilities that take us above, again, traditional up-down type of monitoring. The final area, and the one thing is, this is not necessarily happening kind of serially. Some of this stuff's happening in parallel, but we really see it as two discrete components, is in the cognitive space. And it's around things like machine learning, natural language processing, a digital assistant type of technology, okay? And from our aspect, it's really about how do we have more of the interactions both with the systems that we maintain as well as the users that we support be handled by software, okay? And it's really, again, about being able to keep up with this business, okay? It's how do you keep up with the business, the speed of change, the need for quality of execution. You can't afford to make a mistake in today's world with your external-facing websites, your external-facing applications, your mission-critical, systems within the enterprise. So this slide's actually interesting because we get a lot of clients that, even internal, I'm talking internal to CapGemini, and, what is automation? There's all kinds of things that form automation. And when you look at your own enterprise, these capabilities really need to come together to truly deliver a fully capable set of automation. And you need to have a purpose for your automation. So certain capabilities are out there to solve certain problems. And it's about kind of rationalizing through this. Most of you folks in this room are focused on the core APM type of capabilities. That's why you're here. But there's a lot of other things that can be brought into that and kind of choreographed with that. And that's what we're bringing together under what we're calling our Autonomics platform. So what we've done is overlay this Autonomics platform now on kind of how do we get to that kind of vision that IBM laid out to us, 30, 40 years ago, and really get to an autonomic platform. So going from the dev side, from auto build, auto deploy, release, auto provision environments, auto test your applications, auto scale those environments. And then as you move into the ops side, actually start to move into, auto discover, monitor, diagnose, and heal. And the one thing, and you guys will probably appreciate this, and also our colleagues from AppDynamics, is that when I talk to both folks inside of CapGemini, as well as clients, competitors, advisors, analysts, when everybody talks DevOps, 90% of the conversation's on the development side of DevOps, okay? And that's typically the way we see clients attack the DevOps kind of paradigm as well, right? They start with doing, kind of continuous integration, deploy, delivery. They might start to do continuous testing. And they're starting to gain momentum, right? They're starting to get more throughput, lower cycle times through the dev side. But then all of a sudden the ops side, is not really thought about, and all that, you're driving all of a sudden all that new volume into production at a much faster clip. How do you handle that increased volume in your operations? And that's where, again, the whole discover, monitor, diagnose, and heal are extremely important. We have teams out there, CapGemini teams out there in the field, that because that left-hand side's really starting to get optimized, we can't keep up with the amount of workload that's coming, new feature functions that are coming into those applications. And we're having to use technologies like AppDynamics, et cetera, for us to get a better handle. Has that change made any impact on the operation? So as you go from monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly releases to monthly, weekly, daily, intraday releases, you better have thought through that ops side of the DevOps equation. And that's really the majority of the focus for the rest of the deck here. But it's important, and like I said, everybody focuses on the fun stuff, continuous build, integration, deploy. It's sexy, it's kind of cool. It's the really cool stuff, but you have to, that operations side, you have to have the catcher's mitt or the backstop to catch all that volume that's coming through, right, and effectively do it. And this is a fairly effective framework that we use with clients to allow us to also understand, as we're going through their operation, really looking at the cycle times of each of these areas and understanding where we can pinpoint either process optimization or actual automation of those processes to, again, shrink cycle time and increase throughput. So as we instrument the whole DevOps cycle, we can say, okay, testing takes up 50% of the cycle time of that process. It's inefficient. Or your change management process is 30 steps. It's very cumbersome. Can we reduce that, lean that out to drive, again, more volume through there? So we use it also as a framework to kind of analyze and instrument what we're going after. So one thing that we're doing from a CapGemini standpoint is building an ecosystem, an automation ecosystem that cuts across business process, application management, and infrastructure. And some of our competition in the market is kind of building some of their own automation platforms. We really strongly believe that using commercial products is the right way for us to automate the platform. One, we get the best capabilities in the marketplace from companies like AppDynamics. The second is because we can't, we just can't innovate at the speed of these type of partners around the globe. Second is it also gives our clients the flexibility when if a managed service relationship ends with CapGemini, most of our automation platform is built on either commercial products or open source products, so that can be transferred in-house or to another service provider. And that's why, again, we've taken this kind of what we call product-based ecosystem to drive a majority of our automation platform. And there's a lot of interesting discussions around this because in our business where we're doing large outsourced managed services engagements, traditionally the knowledge of how to run and operate those systems as well as the actual execution has been done by labor, okay? But as we move more of that services workload into software, this becomes an interesting decision for clients in terms of, have you selected CapGemini, one, the best products to automate those services, and are those products potentially transferable down the road, those services, those digitized services, transferable to another service provider in 5 years or back into our client? So there's a lot of interesting discussions around the service provider community, the advisors out there that are brokering outsourcing deals, et cetera. And it's really even decisions that if you have an internal IT staff, need to think about your automation platform holistically. Is it, and design it and architect it just like you'd architect, a Java application or a .NET application. There's a lot of thought that has to go into how you automate those services. So this is kind of the concept. So I'm going to ask you guys a quick question, kind of shake things up here. What are there's three characteristics that we're trying to replicate in a digital engineer that a human engineer, every human engineer has. Can you give me any idea what we'd try to replicate in terms of the things or capabilities a digital engineer could do? Insight? So kind of learning or kind of understanding what's happening in the applications, kind of sensing what's happening out there? Okay. Be able to sense, right, and understand. Okay, what else? Optimize code. Yep, that's a good one. What other things does a human have that they can do on a system or whatever? What other types of things can they do? So they can think, they can learn, they can do things like that. Okay, so sense, right? Kind of that's one that we put out there. The other is to be able to act, right? So, we know that we can sense there's a fire. Well, we can act by calling the fire department or running out of the building, whatever. But you have to be able to act on things that you see in the environment. And the final is to be able to communicate, think, and learn. Okay, so those are kind of the three kind of basic characteristics that we're trying to replicate through software into what we're calling our digital engineer platform. So if you look at a digital engineer, the first thing we're doing, again, in the core foundational capability is around being able to see and sense what's happening in the environment. And again, the discussion around the table today with the gentleman from IBM, et cetera, was, 15 years ago he was using, scripts and, dumps, et cetera, to figure out what happened, to that application. Today, you're using things like AppDynamics to really have very deep understanding of what's happening in that environment. And we see traditionally, when we start to come in and talk about, APM and AppDynamics, is a lot of that traditional monitoring has been owned by the infrastructure side of the house, okay? And the value of APM is not in, kind of up-down. It's really from a business and application perspective, what's happening end-to-end with that, being able to see the business transactions, understand what's happening within that environment, and be able to act proactively, leverage the data. So this gives us the best set of analytics and sensory capability into the environment. Okay, and it does, in effect, do what I kind of said with the Coke example at McDonald's. We now have part of that capability automated. So we can not only auto-monitor, but we can also auto-diagnose where those potential issues are within our environment. The next is being able to act. Now this is where we divert a little bit from again, if we could act, using the runbook automation within AppDynamics to automate some of that process orchestration or workload that needs to be done, kind of the auto heal. But for purposes of CapGemini and what we need to do, some of the actions that we need to do are across many different types of applications, and even in and outside of that environment. So that's why we've chosen to take the act piece into larger grain pieces of software, which are called IT process automation orchestration capabilities. There's a number of companies that play in that space, very heavyweight. Autonomic happens to be one of our partners. We have a couple of others that we're working with actively as well. But think of this piece now as really intelligent workflow automation, okay? So a system needs to be restarted, or you need to get passwords reset, things like that, all kinds of things. Close your financial books, right? So you want to close your month-end Oracle e-business books. We can orchestrate through all those processes. We can make user calls to text them and get approvals to go to a next step. There's update tickets, update change logs. There's a whole bunch, but this is all about what we're calling kind of IT process automation and orchestration. Okay, and that's being able to act. So that starts to take away another aspect of what we're traditionally have done. And these are lower level activities. These aren't designing a piece of code. This is more lower level things that we can automate and orchestrate. But what we're doing now by acting with a compute platform is we're acting at compute speed. We can truly multitask, and we're acting without human error. Okay, so I'll give you an example. We have a key system at one of our clients. It goes down every once in a while. I'm sure you guys have that every once in a while. It takes 19 or 20 steps to bring that system back up. Okay, invariably, once a quarter, somebody forgets one of the steps, or they transpose a step, and it takes, instead of bringing it up the system in an hour, it takes 2 or 3 hours, right? And each hour is millions of dollars, right? So by using a digital engineer, we've codified that process into the digital engineer. So it'll execute that process, one, as soon as it sees it fail, but it'll execute it at compute speed, and it'll execute it the same way every time. Okay, and it won't, say, hey, every time I do this 5th step, it usually takes 10 minutes, so I'm going to go have a cup of coffee, when it only takes 5 minutes. So you've wasted 5 minutes, right? So that's why the speed and quality of service in the digital enterprise is considerable. We have use cases in, I don't have them up here, where we've built a digital database engineer. And let's say you have a database backup failure. For us in this particular client, it takes almost 300 minutes of elapsed time for us to address that database backup failure. By digitizing that database backup failure into our digital DBA, it takes 9 minutes. Okay, and it's done exactly the same every time. So the cycle time of that repair is considerable. The quality is also never missed. Okay? So the last frontier is to be able to communicate, think, and act, or communicate, think, act, and learn. I'm sure some of you operate with international businesses. We operate with clients that have people that speak many different languages across the globe that we have to interact with. So this is really where we see kind of the digital assistant come in. And this is an area where us and our competitors are exploring heavily. And we really break this area into kind of 2 pieces. The lower half is more machine learning, cognitive type of capabilities, kind of the Watson, analyzing, thousands or millions of records, to come up with a decision for you. And the other is what we call the digital assistant. Okay, kind of the, I don't have my phone with me, but the Siri for the corporation. Okay, and if you look at the bottom half, oops, sorry about that. This is what I would say is, this is all doing human to machine interaction and automating that. When you look at this half, the top piece, it's around automating human to human interaction. Okay, so can I, again, this isn't IVR, this is being able to understand contextual language, so our conversation as we're speaking today. So if I say great, I meant great job, not the sewer grate, right? The context of our language, of our conversation, and we marry that. So let's say a user calls into the help desk and says, I need my SAP password reset. That can absolutely be handled through a digital assistant. And once you've moved it to a compute platform, all of a sudden that digital assistant can handle 20 different languages. So CapGemini, as well as our competitors, have call centers in Eastern Europe for the sole reason because they can do multi-language support, right? 15, 20 languages, right? They can handle, okay? And once we move it to a digital equivalent of Siri, the need for multi-language support will diminish. Okay. Okay, just 2 more slides here. So this is what, again, traditionally all of our IT organizations look like this. And what we're really doing at CapGemini is we're building we've built a service catalog, essentially for digital engineers, to say what services can we digitize, okay? And think of our initial digital engineers as really being entry-level staff in our organization. They're not going to be able to do everything, right? But it's an aspirational goal, right? We know we've got a plan across many aspects of different types of things we do to manage and run systems for our clients, and starting to replicate those so that we can start to build out essentially an integrated delivery mechanism. So we're building, we have delivery centers across the globe. We're essentially building a digital delivery center. And it's called our Autonomic Systems Management Platform. It's a PaaS platform that will go in and actually execute workload the same way our engineers do it from our traditional delivery centers. Okay, but this will become more and more part of our workload. And again, like I said in the beginning, these engineers are fairly low level, doing lower level activities, but it gives us a vision and a framework on how to attack this challenge and problem. And again, the focus is on making a step change in the speed of execution and the quality of execution of our services. Okay, the last slide is just, again, kind of the traditional, hey, you've got an outage. Again, we're using the AutoMonitor, auto-diagnose, and for two reasons. One is, and again, this is where obviously AppDynamics plays heavily into this space and what we're doing there. And it's, really the two reasons, and you guys probably have seen this slide before, is not only to reduce the time to resolve and remediate incidents, but also the chaos that happens when these type of situations happen. So much more effective use of our IT staff. And then finally, moving truly to auto heal. And that's again where we've moved that full digital engineer to be able to handle a specific activity within that client's environment, but at much better speed and with much higher quality. Okay, so that's I think that's the end of my my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions, from you guys in terms of what we're up to. Sure.
How do you see the existing speech recognition systems, like IVR nuance, like getting in play when you really especially mention about like call center taking call and like is doing auto, like creating the tickets and whatnot? Mm-hmm. Do you see a good integration with that, or do you see some kind of in the framework you have?
You mean integration with call centers?
With the speech recognition system already.
Oh, speech recognition. So if you go back to this slide here, the digital assistant, there's two components to that component. If you look at a product like an Amelia from IPsoft, which is probably one of the more advanced digital assistants, they have traditional voice and speech recognition, but that doesn't give you natural language. So they can understand a word, right? So I think they use Nuance or one of the classic speech recognition engines. But then they have a whole natural language component that takes that and understands the context of those words. Okay, so speech recognition is primitive. It's like IVR almost. The secret sauce is being able to take that word and understand its context among many words in the conversation. And these type of companies are also working on understanding if a person's upset, right? So if you're a person on the other side of the line, you can, in many cases, understand if that person's upset. How does a compute platform understand that same sense, right? So they're moving beyond. So speech recognition is foundational to a digital assistant. The next capability is understanding the context of that speech. The final area is to be able to understand the emotions of that that speech, right? So you can pick up nuances within that whole conversation. But speech recognition is foundational to that. Okay? But they then build on that to create the truly interactive conversation, which will start to eliminate the human-to-human interaction, and you'll start to have a machine, more of a machine-to-human interaction in those cases. Did that answer your question? Okay. Sure.
It's on. Oh, it is. Thanks. Business outcome-based KPIs with your customers. How easy are you finding those to be defined and agreed upon?
Yeah, it's we are. There's a lot of interest in the marketplace for us to do that. Contractually, we're not baking a lot of those in because the clients and the industry and even the advisors that broker a lot of these deals aren't sophisticated enough to put that in. So what we've done is on many of our deals just say, hey, we'll implement 3 KPIs, one a year, or in these key areas, or one every 3 quarters, however, into the deal, and start to move that way. The key thing that we're also doing is actually instrumenting their business process. So let's say their cash conversion cycle against their peers, right? So if they're an outlier, we can say, well, why are you at 120 days when your peers are at 60? And start to, again, benchmark and look for waste and latency within that to drive it down. So we typically will pick the hot spots in clients that haven't contracted with us for formal business KPIs, business outcomes, and go through that. But we have a very formal model that, business process models across different sectors, and KPIs defined, business KPIs defined for all of those. So we can kind of drive through that with the client and figure out which ones are important. But it's still immature at this point. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Is this Autonomic is the future for all managed kind of services, or it can go to other services?
Well, if you kind of look at the whole Internet of Things, that's really, putting understanding on your refrigerator or your dryer, things like that, where they can, fix and run things remotely. You can drop software patches down to your Tesla vehicle to upgrade it on the fly. Yeah, all this autonomous, and again, autonomous driving vehicles. So we see it driving across all of our services stack, business process, application, infrastructure. But it absolutely applies to just about everything that we're going to be doing in the future here, right? So the challenge that keeps me up at night is what to tell my kids to do in terms of college and so forth. What do you move them into? But I would say again, heavy technical engineering, artists, things like that. Maybe not. Being we're seeing a lot of use cases around things like underwriting. Setting what your insurance rate should be for your car. You don't really need a person to do that, right? That can all be run. You can interact. You can tell the person, what type of house you have or driving history. You don't need to do that, and all that stuff can be done. Schwab and others have those new personal wealth advisors that are all pretty much using that whole upper hand of the quadrant to do a lot of that work that traditional brokers and investment advisors have done. So a lot of that's becoming much more driven through these types of capabilities. Is that good? I think we're good. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.